Can we go over how to watch the NFL games this weekend? That's what I want to go over first. Is how you would be able to watch them. Because some of them they're streaming on Paramount Plus. People need to know that. They won't know it until we tell them. Otherwise, do you like the new thing?
Oh,
it's
how should we say, spiffy.
It's a million times faster, and the graphics are better, and all that shit.
Yeah, all that. Everything is instantaneous.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, instantaneous. No, I can't. Nothing really to complain about, except the damn plugs in the back.
Yeah.
You know what? That should be the worst problem that you have.
It should be.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, and guess what? We can play this at the beginning if you want. I finally caught it. I got one of those calls from the Republican Senate campaign committee. Yes, good. I got it. Of course, now just so you know, the mics on this computer are on right at the top of the screen.
Oh, so you'll be okay.
So, but let me just test this. Watch this. See, you can't see me holding it right there, right? See?
No, can't.
Yeah, see? Isn't that great? By the way, did you look at the New York Times today at all?
I'm afraid I have not had the opportunity. What's the
there's an article you can find it. They're going to tear down the Deauville Hotel in Miami Beach. I got to tell you my Deauville Hotel story. It's not the greatest. It's really not great, but it's the best I got. And let me cue this fucker up before we start. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there he is. You son of a bitch. You bastard, you. Okay, ready?
Ready.
We're ready. I think I did. I must have done it. Let me just check. Which, by the way, will take a lot less time than it used to take. Yep, it's ready. Oh, see? Remember how it used to be?
Yeah, forever. Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah. It is the Brad and Britt cast. We're glad you are with us. Thank you so much for joining us on this, our first one of the week. I got a little treat. I've told you many times, Britt, that I get these calls from the Republican Senate campaign committee, and they're taking a poll. They're always taking a poll,
right?
And it's always just a couple of questions. And of course, they're trying to fundraise. They're trying to get to the point of the call, which is to rope you in. And I'm so annoyed because I want to record one of these because I don't think everybody gets these. I'm a very special person. I don't know how I'm on this list. They keep calling, but they do. And on Monday, on Martin Luther King Day, widely respected by Republicans. I'm surprised they were working on that day. I'm surprised they didn't just take the day off. I was able to catch the guy, and I was able to run and grab my iPad and tell the guy to hold on while I got Brad Krantz. There's Brad Krantz. Yes, hang on, I'll get him.
I'll get Mr. Krantz. He's right here.
Right. And then I come back to the phone with the same voice, and it just doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah. All right. So here you go. Feel free to tell me to stop at any point, and we'll go from there. Here we go.
For President Trump and the America First agenda he enacted?
Of course I do.
Thank you. And almost everyone that I talked to today is saying that. With the Democrats in control of Washington since January,
I just want you to know that the question was, do you believe in President Trump's agenda for the American people? And I said, well, of course I do. So because I didn't want to
Now, did you ask the guy? I thought you'd be talking to a computer or something. Did you ask the guy what it was like to be in the movie Cocoon, or no? Was you
No, if you do that, you'll lose them. You got to go along to a certain point. Don't worry. There's a point where I kind of blow it up here. Okay.
Seems like we've had a year of chaos, incompetence, and left-wing lunacy. In a few short months, Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden have ran through Bernie Sanders' $3.5 trillion budget outline, shared on woke socialists, critical race theory across our school.
You get woke socialists and critical race theory in there. You're mining gold, aren't you?
Well, I mean, this stuff has been researched. Obviously, the language is like, this is what you say. This is what we say to get maximum dollars, to our campaign right here.
Intentionally left our southern borders wide open and bungled our military and foreign policy to the point that we're the laughingstock of the world. It's time to close the door on this weakness and begin to make America great again. And job number one, that is returning a strong conservative Republican majority to the United States Senate.
Nothing I don't agree with so far. I mean, I'm all on board at this point, right? I'm already almost ready to tell the guy, stop while I go get my credit card. But I let him keep it.
And that's why Chairman Rick Scott has issued a call for all loyal Republicans to take a stand with a special Trump agenda contribution to the NRSC today. So when you receive your envelope in the mail...
Now, check me on this. Didn't Trump many months ago say he was pissed that the party was using his name to raise money when, of course, he wants all the money for himself personally? Am I recalling that incorrectly?
There was a food fight between him and the RNC over who's going to keep the money. Yeah, it's been pretty open. It's not really been a secret or anything.
Okay.
NRSC count on you to support with a small donation for the drive?
I don't think so.
I completely understand and don't want to be...
Now, see, he's not deterred from I don't think so when he says...
Well, the script says if they say this, you go to, and you say, I mean, that's how they do it.
Right, because I didn't give a definitive no. I gave an I don't think so.
Burton, let me ask this. We need to start supporting Republican candidates today if we want to win in 2022. It doesn't take a lot to make a huge difference. So we've created a $22 donation amount.
Now, this is brilliant because the year is 2022.
Oh,
so they picked 22. This is, oh my God, holy shit! It's so great. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. If they could ask for the same amount of money, that's the number of years since the year 2000. I may have to reconsider.
For the 2022 elections, if ever there was a time to support conservative candidates in this country, the time is now.
That's right, Brad.
So please, can we count on your support with a $22 for 22 donation this time around?
How about 22 cents?
Pause.
Thank you for your time. We hope you'll support us again very soon. Contributions or gifts to the NRSC are not deductible for federal income tax purposes. This call has been paid for by the NRSC and is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Look for us on the web at nrsc.org. 202-675-6000.
Did you get that number?
I did.
All right. Hey, thanks for your call. And he was gone.
What was it like? You got to talk to Jessica Tandy's husband. That's so cool, man. It's like he's like a celebrity.
Hume Cronin?
Yeah, it's
Hume Cronin?
Did he have to excuse himself to go eat because it was 4:30?
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I don't want to say that guy sounded. Oh, you should have hit him with, and this would be great. But I just saw this story on CNN. I'll give you the screen grab. There's the story on CNN that they just had. Orange juice prices up, Peloton racing costs. You see, I'd like to give money to your stupid Republican thing, but Joe Biden has inflated everything so much, I don't have any leftover money.
Well,
Netflix just jacked me. Now Peloton's going up. I don't have any extra money to throw your way, sir.
Wait a second here. Of course, I saw that and I've read about that, and this is not any attempt to deny inflation or any. This is not what that is. but there really are reasons why some things are going up in price that have kind of sort of nothing to do with even general inflation. And if you've been alive for the last, say, 200 years, you know that the price of oranges and therefore orange juice wavers from year to year, depending on how the crop is, how the weather is. And apparently there's another terrible disease that has knocked out a huge percentage of the orange crop in Florida. I think we've been hearing about this for a couple of years. They've been trying to work on figuring out a cure or help a vaccine for the oranges to help them fight off the disease. So of course that explains why orange juice prices are going up. And as for Peloton, well, I think this sounds exactly like one of the guys I used to work for in radio. One of the dumber of the people who owned radio stations that I worked for, a guy named Steve Hutchinson. Steve had no idea how to run a radio station. He'd never been in the business really as an owner, but he decided to buy this little tin can toaster of a station. When I say toaster, that's about how much power the station had. It was called WKEW in Greensboro because he heard it. It was in his hometown. And he said, why aren't these guys making more money? Because he talked to the owners and they told him. And he said, I got an idea. I'm going to buy that station. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to double the price of all the ads. Therefore, we'll just make a lot of money. Well, of course, that didn't happen. He couldn't raise the price double because the advertisers would run for the hills. And that's not how capitalism works. You don't just decide on your own to raise a price. In the case of Peloton sold every fucking Peloton that they're ever going to sell for the most part during the pandemic because nobody wanted to go to the gym. Nobody could go to the gym. People had nothing to do. People with money who never even went to a gym decided this is a good idea. It was a fad. We've got that guy from Greensboro who was on Dancing with the Stars. Interesting. They had it going on. Peloton was the perfect company, the perfect product, the perfect stock for the pandemic. And the stock today is down 80% from its high. So what does Peloton do? Well, we'll just raise the prices. So even fewer people will buy the Pelotons that we're not going to be selling anyway because no one's buying them because everybody already has them. And raising the price, of course, will make them even less attractive to people who have not bought one, haven't gotten in on buying a Peloton. So yes, those headlines that were on CNN are, of course, technically accurate. Yes, orange juice prices are up. Peloton is raising costs. But if we're so stupid as to just take everything as inflation is here, it's Joe Biden's fault, I'm going Republican, then we're going to deserve what we're going to get. And of course, what's the number one story all day long on Fox? Its new Gallup poll shows huge shift for people self-identifying now as Republicans versus Democrats, a 14-point shift in the Gallup poll in recent months. And that's, of course, because Joe Biden raises the prices on things like Pelotons and orange juice.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
But I mean, in all seriousness, isn't that how Democrats lose midterm elections right there? Just for something that simplistic? And you're right. If we do this, then we get what we deserve. Well, a lot of times we do that, and then we bitch about what we get. A lot of times we do vote because of that stuff, very simplistically. And if they're able to make the case, if the Republicans are that I'm just going to say right now, the Republican messaging for 2022 has been like nowhere. It's just Biden sucks, and that's going to work, right? That's basically what they've been doing.
It isn't nowhere; it's everywhere, and it's everything, and it's tough to fend off. There are just so many examples of the Democrats dropping the ball here when they really don't have to, except that at this moment they're painted into this corner, and Grisham's law, I believe, is the law that says bad news drives out good news. To check that one out. I believe that's what it's not Stephanie Grisham. It's some guy a lot older than than her.
John
And it
Grisham,
was
the great law writer there. Gresham,
Gresham.
Gresham.
Yeah.
Gresham's law is that bad money drives out good, Brad.
Oh, well, excuse me, substitute the word money and put news in there, you get the same thing. I stand by it.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of the same thing. Yeah, bad money drives out good
Here's
money.
an example. More exactly, if coins containing metal of different value have the same value as legal tender, the coins composed of the cheaper metal will be used for payment, while those made of more expensive metal will be hoarded or exported. That is what
Okay.
Mr. Gresham has said.
All right. Fair enough. But look at where we are, and we can talk about this because we have the time, and we're not held accountable for anything that we say ever by anyone at any time. But I really do believe this. I believe we're in an economic situation that, without any doubt, would be practically identical under Donald Trump, president, or now dictator, headed into his second year of his second term, right? After he cheated his way back in. We're this. It might even be worse. Who knows? But Trump was, in the end, defeated at the polls for a whole variety of reasons, including, maybe most likely the biggest reason, was his ham-handed way of addressing the pandemic, which was wrecking the economy right in front of our eyes. Things were closing down. Nobody could do anything. And tons of money was put into the economy. It was voted in by the Congress. Remember that bipartisan, huge trillions of dollars pumped in there. And that was during Donald Trump's administration the first time around, right? Back in the spring of 2020. So in goes the money, and interest rates stayed down, and the economy started to recover. It sputtered, but it was recovering, certainly, right? The financial markets were pumped up by that money also. But Trump was such an idiot, he couldn't take advantage of that and still lost to Joe Biden, because essentially most people hate Donald Trump, and enough of them came out, right? Now, here it is, a year after that, and the hangover of all that original money plus the next amount that was voted in early in Biden's administration has equaled your classic definition of what we learned what inflation was back in grade school, high school, college, and grad school, which is too much money chasing too few goods. The too few goods aren't because we can't produce them. It's because, well, we can't produce them because we can't get the shit to put in them. We can't get silicon chips, and we can't get the shit delivered because of the virus. So if you can tell me how a different president right now would have not been, I hate to use the word victim, but for the purposes of the discussion, we'll use it, would have been victimized by these circumstances. Tell me how it would have been different, unless you think a Trump would have said no more money going into the economy. I won't sign it. Oh, really? At the end of the campaign, remember how Trump wanted to send, what was it, $4,000 or something to everybody?
Right.
He was one-upsmanshipping Biden, right? And everybody knew it was kind of crazy then. And then under cooler heads, they passed what they did pass. And the infrastructure bill with Republican support. I don't think very much of that money has been spent yet. It's not as if the infrastructure bill is causing inflation. That's ridiculous. It's just, we're in this vice right now. Every inflation is different. They're not all the same. You can't look at the history books and say, oh, this is just like 1977. It just isn't. It's a different kind of inflation. Back then there were oil embargoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
gas lines, all those things, yeah.
Gas lines and the rest. Now there is enough oil, but not so much oil that the price would fall back down to where it was mostly during Trump's administration, because, well, there was COVID and people stopped driving all that time, so they stopped pumping oil and they stopped drilling for new wells for that year or so. So that cut the supply. So guess what happened? Then suddenly everybody, or last spring, said, oh, shit, let's get out and drive. And there wasn't enough. And we haven't caught up since. Plus, you got the Russians fucking around with oil over there. They have a huge say over how much gets pumped out into the world, along with our good friends in Saudi Arabia. That's all to say that, and we got to say it or else we have no hope. It's still only January. The world can change very, very quickly. I mean, think about it. 6 months ago, very few people had the imagination to think, number one, not only are we not out of it, but the likelihood of a variant that will come along that will, in its own way, be equal to or worse than the first two go-rounds will blanket the world. And while it is worse in terms of number of people getting infected, the technology and the science marches on. And even though the hospitals are completely overwhelmed just because of the sheer numbers, we've talked about this, everybody knows, if you have 2 million people getting the disease and only 5% of them go into the hospital, well, that's 100,000 people. Well, last time, with a much more virulent disease, only maybe 500,000 got it, and 7% went in. Well, there you go. That's 350,000. You know, there was no way to predict this version of the virus. I don't think anybody did that. Nobody said back then, unless you can recall someone say, yeah, we're going to get another one, but it's not going to be quite as devastating, especially to people who are vaccinated. They're going to be just fine for the most part. And this actually was said, the morons who aren't vaccinated, you're going to suffer no matter what comes down the line. And that's turned out to be true. That's my speech. Your floor, sir.
How do we combat? I mean, I think Democrats have been horrible about trying to tout any sort of good economic news. And you've often said that even if you point out inflation is down, the economy is better than it was a year ago, and that the Biden record on the economy really isn't that bad. In fact, it's quite good. Very few Democrats in my lifetime have ever been able to tell a decent story about what they've done for the economy. I think Bill Clinton was able to, and a little bit Obama was. What do you do to counter any of this stuff? Because all you're going to do, everything that you just said makes complete sense, but then somebody's going to go to the store and go, oh, the bread that I was paying $1.89 for is now $2.79. So fuck you, Joe Biden, and the Republicans can save me.
But you use the phrase, well, inflation is down. Well, it's not down. It's not down yet. You can't. If you go out there and say that,
I know. Okay, I didn't mean to say inflation is down, but the economy is doing better than it was, and the Democrats are unable to tell a good story about that and what they're able to do. So people are down, and even though you explain to them that the economy is doing better than it was, they're not hearing that, Brad. They're not, and that's why in the midterm elections, almost every time the president's party loses seats. You've got that just standing right there. And I don't know what we can do to tell a good story when they just say, well, the stuff you were paying for yesterday is a lot more today. I don't know how we do that.
And here's why, because people don't live in, quote, the economy, unquote. They live in their own world. They have their own lives. They pay their own bills. They have their own jobs, and they pay their own taxes. So the idea that macroeconomic numbers, no matter what they say, if they counter your experience, they mean nothing. They mean nothing, and they set you up for being said that you're out of touch, you don't understand. And what's the price of milk, President Biden? We're pretty close to one of those. So Joe Biden is going to have a real press conference, I believe, on Wednesday.
Sure,
his first one in a while. And you got to know, you have got to know that there are reporters that are coming loaded for bear, ready to ask these kind of gotcha questions that are going to make him look like a doddering old fool. That's the whole goal, right? It's the only reason to have this.
Well, you need to. I mean, it's time to. You've got nothing to lose at this point. How much is the price of a gallon of milk? Well, we might be able for some people to afford a gallon of milk if we could have gotten that child tax credit extended, but we just couldn't do that for some reason. There's some reason or other. We've been holding that up and batting it around. And the Republicans don't want that, and they're against it. I don't know what economic story.
By the way,
this is a slow train coming toward you, and you can't do fuck all about it. At this point.
May I just say that what you just gave could be possibly the worst answer you could ever give.
It's over then. It's over then. Just prepare for a Republican majority next year.
No, you can't. Right. But you cannot answer a question with what is the price of milk,
You can't. So
which
it's
hang on,
not possible.
let
It's
me
not.
finish. You can't answer what is the price of milk with, I don't know the exact price, but it would be more affordable if Republicans wouldn't block everything I'm doing.
So
That's
you
not going to
can't.
work.
So
That's
you
not going
just
to work.
can't say to Americans that the Republicans are fucking you by blocking all of this stuff. You just can't say that. That's not possible. You can't point out to them that the people who are voting Republican are getting fucked by Republican policies. That's not something you can do.
No,
Okay.
no,
Well, then it's
because
over. We're
they
done.
already know it. No,
We
they
need to
already know it.
We need to figure out
They
how
already
to.
know it, and they don't care because they hate you worse. They
Right.
hate you
So
worse,
we need to
and
prepare.
they want you to. Right.
We need to prepare for the Republicans being back in power and having probably a pretty good majority in the Senate and in the House. And then we need to figure out if Joe Biden's going to be the guy we're going to hang on to for 2024. That's what's going, because this is a slow moving train and we're done.
Well,
there's no way to tell the story, and you can say all the stuff things can change now between now and November. Well, I don't think inflation's going to reverse itself. I don't think it's going to the price of stuff's going to go down. No, I think there's no way to tell the story. I thought the Republicans were going to hang on to critical race theory like your friend in that little survey there, and they're going to pop that pretty good too, and they're going to do the woke shit and do all that stuff, but they're really just going to just pop the idea that, hey, this guy fucked you. This guy drove up the price of everything that you're buying at the store, and he's running the economy right in the gutter, so you need to go back into the loving arms of daddy again. That's essentially the Republican message for 2022.
Look, don't come after me. I didn't do this.
No.
I didn't do this. It wasn't my idea. But you have to answer questions factually. You can't answer them with philosophy. You can't answer them with defensiveness. Oh, woe is me. You can't do it. I think we should go back to what you originally were talking about. I think you can talk about some positive things that really, really have happened. And it is true. This is true. No one thought that the unemployment rate would be back down to where it is. It's so good that it's almost at Trumpian levels of lowness, right?
Almost.
Right? Which, of course, is the all-time standard of great. It's just about back there. Now, there may be several million people who just refuse to take jobs or refuse to work or in transition that's helping that. But lots of people have really bettered themselves during these last few years, inadvertently and unfortunately, sometimes at the expense of other people, not always not their fault, but that's, in a turbulent, capitalistic, dynamic economy, things move around and things change. But the problem is we can't kind of get out of our own way on so many things. I don't think it's hopeless. I don't think it's hopeless. However, I will say this. If there's a press conference this week and Joe Biden just comes off terribly, you're going to knock another 2 or 3 points off of his approval rating, and he's going to be pushing 30. He's going to be pushing 30%.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen because people are, they're just waiting to crush this guy. And I'm not quite sure really why the Republicans are having a field day with Joe Biden ran not as a radical, not as Bernie Sanders, and he's further left than Bernie Sanders. He's trying all these things and he won't give them up. What happened to Joe Biden, as if they really care. And Democrats who voted for Joe Biden, the ones who are not sticking with him and saying, look, do you recall why we voted for Joe Biden? Do you understand the circumstances of the world? Do you understand a president is not a king? Do you understand a president working with a 50-50 Senate is not Franklin Roosevelt? He never said he was Franklin Roosevelt. He didn't come out. He didn't do that. That was written. And then suddenly now it's not only is he not Franklin Roosevelt, but he's Jimmy Carter. And by the way, it wouldn't be such a bad thing for Joe Biden to be Jimmy Carter. Read Jonathan Alter's column about Jimmy Carter.
You never make that argument. Never make that argument.
I understand that. I don't care. I don't care. We're talking, about integrity. We're talking about restoring America, and there is this complete lack of understanding that while we're not back to whatever normal was, and I don't even know what was normal. Was it normal? We're never normal. It's never been.
Forget it.
How about pre-Trump? How about there's a pre-Trump tone and level to what comes out of the White House these days. That's fair to say, okay? Because you don't wake up every day wondering, what did the idiot tweet this morning? You don't do that. Doesn't work that way.
All I know is
I know that's not that you shouldn't celebrate that. That's not a reason to like Joe Biden. But you know what? Yes, it is. For me, it's enough. Still, it's still enough.
If you hated my child tax credit answer, if he gets up there and says, "Would it be so bad if I turned out to be Jimmy Carter?" That would actually be a worse answer. If he actually went to a press conference,
I didn't say he should say that.
No, but if anybody ever tries to defend it on that level, you're just done.
I'm not saying.
I mean, I don't know. It's just frustrating for me, and I think it's frustrating for you that the message. I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm a Republican, I'm running against Kathy Manning in what will now be your district, I guess, because it ain't going to be mine. Here's what I do. This is all I got to do. I'm going to get gas down to less than $2.50 a gallon, and you just say the same bullshit. I'm going to drill in. Now,
if I ask you how you're going to do that, what do you say?
I'm going to open up the strategic reserves. I'm going to drill in ANWR. I'm going to stop the federal regulations on our refineries. It's the same shit that doesn't mean anything, and you just say it, and people buy it over and over and over again, right?
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing that you can
just say that shit over and over. We're going to have this, and we're not going to have all of this goddamn green energy shit, and we're going to get gas under $2.50 a gallon. And then the suburban women that control these elections go, well, I think that's a pretty good idea. Fuck you, Kathy Manning. You're out of here. And then all of a sudden the guy gets in, and gas isn't magically down to $2.38 a gallon or whatever. And they just wonder why that didn't happen.
But you do realize that not only is what you've just said naturally a load of shit that would come in thinking that, and a long time listeners or viewers of the Brad and Brittcast know that when all is said and done, there is a guy named Bob who lives in an undisclosed location who fixes the price of gasoline all the time. We've talked to Bob. We don't know where he is, but he controls it. We have no real control over the price of gasoline. But
Bob just gets pissed off every few years and just hikes the price of gasoline.
Be that as it may, Joe Biden, at least unless I've misread what I read, has been a profound disappointment to a lot of environmentalists and far lefties on oil and gas. I think they did renew a lot of the drilling leases for the companies. They didn't just say, "Oh, we're gonna not have oil soon, and everybody better drive a fucking electric car in 6 months, or we're all gonna die." He never said that, and it wasn't ever going to be that way. So it's based on a lie. What you're saying would be, of course, based on an inaccuracy to think that Joe Biden. By the way, he's a car guy, right? He's like a car freak,
right?
So he probably understands it a lot better than, say, a guy who probably hasn't driven a car in about 50 years. Trump, right? And driven around everywhere, right? But except he does drive the big rigs. I saw those pictures of him at the White House driving big rigs. Remember that? Oh, boy.
One of the reasons that I think, and I think you hit on it, I think one of the reasons that Trump looks less attractive as a candidate, because I'm not able to do my screen grabs today to show them up to you on the screen, so I'll get all that fixed by tomorrow. But one of the reasons that Trump is going back and forth with DeSantis, he's pissed off at DeSantis in Florida because DeSantis is maybe the biggest threat to him in 2024, right? As far as the nominee for the party, he looks like if we're not going to have Trump, we're going to be this guy. One of the reasons that Trump seems less attractive and he seems less to the forefront is because of that damn Twitter account. That stupid, awful Twitter account. And if you've been reading some of the stuff from various folks, they think maybe this is the year that Trump gets the Twitter account back. That Twitter somehow this figures out a way to put him back on that platform, even though I know Getter is getting millions of people and he's really influencing a lot of people with that tremendous social networking thing from that stupid Jason Miller.
It's never. I don't think that you can't bring him back. Not under these circumstances. Not now.
But
no way.
What would you always?
A lifetime ban is a lifetime ban. We don't let people who are sentenced to life in prison out in 5 years. And by the way, in Trump's case, they could give him a life sentence on Twitter and we'll let you out for good behavior. Where's the good behavior been? None. You're still done. You're out.
I was looking at one of the people, of course, who's very smart about this stuff is Kara Swisher, who writes for the New York Times. And she said that was one of her predictions for 2022. He's either going to be back on Facebook or back on Twitter by the end of the year because they like the traffic, they like the juice, and it's just going to be too good for them. And we've seen time and time again that these people just don't give a shit. They need the traffic, they need the juice and all that stuff. And even though this guy is dangerous for the world, I mean, him without that. You've always said this thing about when I would say, well, he's not going to be reelected. You would go, yeah, he's doing stuff. He's not going to get one more vote from this group. And then, of course, he did better in 2020 than he did in 2016. He did better among Hispanics. He did worse among the suburban females. But in a number of different groups, he was able to expand his reach, right, in 2020 than he did in 2016. And we were like, how the fuck did that happen? How was he able to kick the shit out of any brown person that he saw within a 30-mile radius? And still, all of a sudden, Hispanics, he increased the reach among those. I mean, obviously, among white guys, he's God. But still, without that Twitter account, I don't think he wins another election. I just don't. But with it, he could probably win another one. That's how I feel right now.
I don't have a comeback to that because if A happens and then B happens, maybe C does have. I hope it's not that. I hope that's not the thing that changes everything. Hey, can we catch up with a story from the weekend about the hostage taking down in Texas at that synagogue, and then they went and killed the guy? I was stunned, shocked. I guess it shouldn't be shocked at anything anymore. I could not believe, and it carries all the way up even to today, the language that has been used to describe what happened at that synagogue. And I say it in reference to how this guy who took the hostages died, okay? Because, and this happened, Friday night? Friday night, after it was over, and the hostage taker is deceased. The hostage taker died. And I kept saying to Jim, well, how did it happen? Did he kill himself? Was he killed by what the fuck happened? You know, this fucking hostage thing. People, he didn't have a heart attack, right? He didn't trip on a banana and hit his head. They kept softening his death. They kept, and to this morning, and I wrote it down. This was a report. This must have run last night. They rerun shit, for about 24 hours on TV to pretend it's a new report. But so this was probably from last night from NBC. And the reporter's name is Morgan Chesky, pretty good reporter. And I wrote down what he said. The suspect died after the FBI moved in. Could you mute? Could you mute the reality anymore than that? It's not possible. You can't do it. Why? I want to know that the FBI went in there with guns blazing and shot the shit out of this creep who deserved to die. Albeit, had he been a white hostage taker, maybe they would have been a little bit more reticent to shoot him. But okay.
If he's a white guy, it's like.
Right.
Hostage taker murdered by law enforcement.
Right. So what is that? And by the way, a lot of the reporting, and I don't care who's complaining about this. I don't care what their ideology is. I'm with you. A lot of reports, we don't know what his motives were. We're not. The FBI isn't saying what his really.
Yeah.
Let's see.
This isn't hard.
Because I guess the guy might have thought he was breaking into a 7-Eleven or an empty barn. It just happened to be a synagogue with Jews.
Well, we don't know the motivation.
But we don't know his motives. We don't know his motives.
Maybe he was pissed that Joe Biden had driven up the price of gas and milk and he had to go shoot some people. Maybe that's what was frustrating.
It's worse than that. That would be said right after.
Right.
It would be described as he was trying to get authorities to release this woman who, by the way, her nickname was Lady Al Qaeda, right? Wasn't that her name?
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Which didn't she do an album with Tony Bennett? Didn't Lady Al Qaeda do? Okay.
Well, it was a big hit for the Beatles. I like that one a lot.
Right. The Lady Al Qaeda. She was in that A Star Is Born remake, wasn't she? Wasn't she in that?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, she is amazing. Her show
but they would say right after this, they put a picture of her up there, right? You saw pictures of her. She said she was going to murder every American and all this, and she's in prison forever. And then they say, but they don't know his motives. Really? So what the fuck is going on here? What is going on?
What do you attribute this shitty reporting to? Is it just laziness?
I don't know.
Is it political correctness? Is it what is there? Because there's something going on there. Where they're afraid.
There's something going, and I can't figure it out. Now if you're considered to be anti-Muslim, or you're rushing to judgment when a British Muslim flies to the United States, and by the way, the important thing is now you get to play softy because he has mental illness. Kids say he has. So therefore, are we picking on the mentally ill now?
Well,
we're picking on the Muslim mentally ill. I mean, what the fuck is this? I don't get it. I don't get it.
If I'm mentally ill and I want to get a gun, I'm going straight to America. I mean, that's the place to go. I'm just going to say that right now. I mean, come on, let's be honest. And I'm only going to show this comment because there was a good outcome. The bad person died and the good people were not hurt. I'm only going to show this comment for that. John writes, with all due respect, I feel like if you're going to take hostages, don't do it on a Friday night during the NFL playoff season because I didn't feel like it got the coverage I expected. See, right there, that's exactly correct. But you're right. I don't know why people are so afraid to say, geez, we don't know the motives. We're just not really sure of I'm not really.
Oh, wait
a
minute. There was no NFL games Friday night.
No, but we were all very excited about the upcoming ones, and of course, we were all buzzing from that huge Georgia victory over Alabama. So we were in that nether region.
He's saying that the entire NFL season is off limits for crime. That's like a 5-month. No, this can't be like the baseball season. 7 or 8 months there and then 5 months. You can't do it that way.
No, you got to do it, and you have to do it. I think May is perfect because first of all, it sweeps. That's what you put it right in the middle of that. You do it before Memorial Day. That's when people are paying attention. That's the way to do it. Sometime between the 1st of May and that last Monday.
All right. These things. And we're just picking on stupid white guys now. Can we just say that Novak Djokovic is in a league of his own? I mean, you say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, LeBron James, the guy in the Buffalo Bills. Say what about Eddie, but he's in a class of his own.
Can we fly him in? Can he go to the next Trump rally and be like a special guest?
I said no. I said to Jane on Friday, the minute it was announced he's out, he's done, he's official, he's going to leave the country. I said, hey, guess what? This is only the first of 4 major tournaments. Nothing is going to change. Right. There's still going to be a pandemic. And if you think for 1 second that the next tournament, which is the French Open, if you think the French are going to bend over and allow Djokovic to play unvaccinated in France, they're out of their mind. And then comes Wimbledon, in July, and then at the end of the summer you have the U.S.
It's
Open.
open.
If he has decided that he wants to be the martyr, the poster boy for anti-vaccination, which he is, he has. He pretends he doesn't, and that statement that was put out on his behalf, because people never write their own statements, that he was really sad that the emphasis the last few weeks was on him, and now can we just enjoy the great tennis of the Australian Open? All right, the fact that kind of bullshit would be put out there, and then he flies back to first Dubai, which is where you always go first. It's always a great place to change planes. And then he goes back to Serbia. I don't know if he still lives there or not. I can't imagine somebody with that much money still actually living in Serbia, his home country. But they treated him like a conquering hero back there. Why? Again, what did he prove? Just tell me again, one more time. I'm missing this, because this is just like people here in the United States. They're not him. They're not famous. They're not giving up winning a major tournament.
Yeah.
They're not doing that. But people who think they're winning something, or in this case, a lot of them are saying, take that, Biden. I'm not getting vaccinated. That's part of it, right? It makes no sense. Absolutely, I can't figure it out. There's no way to talk about it all.
But don't you think that if it goes all the way to the U.S. Open, don't you think Mr. New York, Donald Trump, calls a press conference and he hammers down, he demands that they allow Djokovic to play at the Arthur Ashe Stadium for the U.S.
You
Open?
really are cowed that you would actually project out to think that we should be worried that Donald Trump, number one. By the way, is there anyone more hated in metropolitan New York?
No.
By the way, is there anyone more hated by the level of income that the average U.S. Open tennis fan, especially those who can afford to attend, there could not be a less popular person.
Well, wait a minute.
You can think of one?
Is Leona Helmsley dead? Yes. Yeah, you're right. And now that Leona Helmsley's been dead for a while. Yes. But it would be great to see him get up there and pound, and then all of his stupid redneck supporters go, well, yeah, I love tennis. They'll let old Joker in there.
Britt, you're a couple news cycles behind this now.
Oh, is Trump there?
No, Trump has already staked out that ground that he wants to be on, which is, okay, you could bring up whatever happened in the past if you want to, but right now, I've been triple vaccinated. I believe in the booster, and everyone should get a shot. And Ron DeSantis has occupied the old Trump ground, thinking that that's a good place to be, and it is not. And so that does not equate to Trump standing up for an anti-vaxxer down the road. It's not going to happen. He's not going to go there. DeSantis would be the guy. He would be your guy who would do that.
That would be great.
Right? He would say, you know what he'd say? He'd say to the U.S. Open, bring the tournament down to Florida. Move it down here.
Move it down to Miami.
Right. Speaking of that, we're down in Florida. Let me just finish up with this one thing. There's a piece in the New York Times today, or it might have run yesterday, I think, over the weekend. They're apparently about to tear down the Deauville Hotel, Deauville, the Deauville. And it's one of those older hotels that was on Collins Avenue, not down in South Beach where the kiddies are these days. But it's up there in the middle part where the Fontainebleau and the Eden Rock and the Doral, all those old classic hotels when I went many years ago. It's still been there, and they've let it rot. Okay, it's an empty hulk of a building now, and like 500. But there is a piece today in the Times, and there's a picture of the Beatles who stayed there for a week in 1964. Now, remember, they were moving quickly all around the world back in 64. That was their year. But they loved it so much in Miami Beach and at this hotel, the Deauville, that they were there for 7 or 8 days. And there's this picture of them practicing. You know, the 3 guitar playing Beatles, and then Ringo in the back. And it is the most beautiful picture I have ever seen. It is so innocently perfect of a moment when you think about where we were in 1964 as the world was trying to get back on its feet after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And here are the Beatles ascending to the heights of their popularity, and they're hanging out, having a great time at the Deauville in Florida. And I guess it's emblematic of the fact that certainly a city like Miami, which is now occupied by mostly young punks, if I can just use the phrase, not only are they not interested in saving an old hotel like that and fixing up, reviving it, but they would glory in ripping it down and putting up probably some other overpriced piece of shit, right, for people to go hang out at. But here's my only Deauville story personally. When I was 12 or 13, I did see a concert at the Deauville. I did see a concert at the. That's not the picture.
Oh, it's not the one. Well, but there they are.
That's,
they look
that's
lovely,
not the
they?
picture. But that's not the picture. I saw Wayne Newton. My parents took me to see Wayne Newton at the Deauville. Okay, the Beatles had been there.
How old was fucking Wayne Newton then? I mean, he was just like,
He must have been like 16 or 17.
Yeah, I was
don't know
gonna
how old.
say, yeah.
I mean, he's not that much older than me. Or maybe he is. But yeah, the Deauville. I'm so nostalgic for it because I saw Wayne Donkashane Newton.
Was that his big closer? That was he waited to the end of the show and made you, and then boom, hit it, or did he play it twice?
I didn't write down the set. I forgot to write down the set.
Oh, wait a minute. I got one last thing about this US Open with Trump. When he stands up there and bangs on the podium, he should say they need to change it from Arthur Ashe Stadium to Robert E. Lee Stadium. He should insist.
Now that I like. It's not going to. Yeah. Or really, I think you're overthinking it. Why isn't it called Trump Stadium?
Exactly.
Well, here's the answer. Number one, you've never done anything worthwhile in your life.
That's number one.
Two, everybody hates you.
That's
and number three, you have no connection to tennis. But other than that, yeah, it definitely should have your
number four. You suck, and number five, fuck you. Fuck you is always a good finisher, I find.
Right.
Oh, that'll do it for us.
See you tomorrow.
See you guys.